Yeah, Lamp, Kiwi, Moritz, Dizzy, Synapse, Pochu, Cableman, Caver, Terrafell, Lutra, Rabbit, and Axena in red in front of Rabbit. Tonight's story is brought to you in part by MissFlora.com for some of the history, DPWR.net for the Denis dates, UruArchives.com for the surface history corresponding to the Denis dates, and the Covernian Calendar Converter, which was written by Brett Middleton of the Fuzzy Physics Institute for converting between Denis and surface time. Tonight's story is from Myst, the Book of Atris. As I've told these stories, we've learned about life in the cavern. We learned how the Denis came from their proud roots, seeking to shed their pride, yet pride crept back into their lives. We watched it cause the downfall of their great empire. We watched as a mother and her young son made their way to the surface from the ruins of Denis. A mother, Anna, grieving for the loss of her soulmate, and her son, Gen, angry at his mother for, he believed, leaving his father behind. We learned about Gen's adolescent life and his all-consuming anger towards his mother for what he perceived as her part in the fall of Denis and in his father's death. Basically, she was the root cause of his world having fallen apart. Instead of learning patience, he was impatient, choosing easy paths, even though they may not be the correct ones. Where his paths would become blocked, he chose to use brute force to overcome his obstacles rather than use reason and logic. We learned of his son, Atris, and of Anna's second attempt to raise a good and decent child, teaching him to be observant of his surroundings, even of the bad things that occur as a result of his experiments. We learned how, when Atris was 14 years old, his father returned to the cleft to take him to Denis, where Gen intended to use Atris as an assistant, together writing ages to rebuild what Gen had perceived as the glory of Denis. We learned of Atris's first trek to Denis, and the beginnings of his lessons from Gen on how ages are created. We saw the first of many confrontations between father and son, how Gen took Atris to show him some of his ages, and ending up at Gen's 37th age. Last week, we learned more about Gen's 37th age and Atris's realization of the relationship between the words written in an age's descriptive book and the end result, and the first age written by Atris. This week, we will see Gen carelessly destroy 2 ages in a fit of pique and begin the rift that would forever separate father and son. Tonight's story opens in the Denis year of 9429, approximately 1773 AD, the year of the Boston Tea Party, which took place on October 10th of that year, a truly busy year in Atris's life. Upon returning to Denis, after their first visit to Atris's first age, which he called Inception, their first stop was Gen's office. Gen immediately picked up a book and began writing. Atris asked his father what a Korfa Vajah was. Gen explained that it was a ceremony for a new god. You are a true Denis now, Atris, a writer. That fact ought to be recognized. Atris noticed that the book his father was writing in was the descriptive book for age 37. He thought it was fixed. He asked his father what he was doing. After telling Atris that he is a true Denis now, that it was appropriate that he be recognized as a god through the Korfa Vajah ceremony, the first book ceremony, and was planning something special for the occasion. He continued, making changes, small ones, things you cannot see. Atris asked his father what he meant by experimenting more with his age, if he meant that Atris should take more risks. Gen started by saying that Atris should have experimented more with the soil and the weather, then noted that the copybooks had barely anything in them, that only one was anywhere near a proper age. He continued by saying, "Damn it, boy, you should have made 20 ages by now. You should have experimented a little, tried out a few things to see what worked and what didn't. Sticking to the tried and tested, that is all well and good for scribes, Atris. Not for us." Poor Atris was bewildered. Did his father want quick ages or stable ones? Before he could ask, Gen continued his rant. "You are no good to me if you work at this pace all the time. I need ages. Dozens of them. Hundreds of them. That is our task, Atris, don't you see? Our sacred task, to make ages and populate them, to fill up the nothingness with worlds, worlds we can own and govern, so that the D'ni will be great again, so that my grandsons will be lords of 1,000,000 worlds." Gen stood there a moment longer, then slowly sat down. It was obvious that he was disappointed in Atris. He sent the lad to his room with instructions to wait for his servant, Rigis, who would bring Atris garments to wear for the ceremony. This was the D'ni year of 9429. The ceremony was to be held on the 22nd day of the 6th month, November 16, 1773 on the surface. Finally, they made their way to age 37. The changes made to that age were astounding, appalling. The skies were dark with ominous clouds. It was clear that there was something terribly wrong. As they walked toward the village, they saw it. Gen not only made the ocean warm, he dropped its level so that the lagoon that the villagers depended on for fishing was now a dry lake bed that ended in a shelf of land several hundred feet above the level of the ocean. The villagers were terrified and begged Gen to help them. Gen, for his part, was bewildered as well. He felt that there was nothing wrong with the phrases that he used. Undaunted, he demanded that the ceremony continue as scheduled. The ceremony had barely started when the rain came. Not just rain, but a heavy downpour. Gen had timed his words perfectly as he said, "Behold, the rain." It was supposed to make the villagers stand in awe of his power. Unfortunately, the rain did little good for the lagoon and the sea, as the water drained off immediately into the ocean. It would have to rain for 1,000 days to bring the ocean level back up to its original height. The inclement weather cut short the ceremony, and the two linked back to D'ni. Upon their return, Gen just sat at his desk. Atris begged his father to do something to help the villagers. Finally, Gen took the descriptive book for the 37th age and used the D'ni negating symbol to undo the recent changes he had made. "There, it's fixed," Gen announced. "Go see for yourself." Though the age was returned to its previous appearance, it was not the same age. The people appeared to be the same, but they did not know him. These were not the friends he had left behind. Gen hadn't fixed anything. He merely took the bridge back down the great tree of possibilities, the Terech Jeruth, and the book now linked to a different world entirely. On his return to D'ni, Atris tried to explain this to his father, who would hear none of it. A nasty argument ensued. Atris accused his father of not understanding the whole, as his grandmother had taught him. Gen merely sneered. Atris went to grab the book from his father, saying that if Gen wouldn't fix the age and help his friends, then he should let Atris do it. Gen decided to teach Atris a lesson and started making changes to his age of inception, calling various phrases as superfluous and unnecessary. He started negating several features of that age, finishing with removing the ones that placed the blue flowers, the ones he had written for his grandmother. To further display his abilities and knowledge over that of his sons, he finally declared that his 37th age was defective and cast that book into the fireplace, burning the book and forever breaking the link between worlds. Please join us next time as Atris realizes the depth of his father's madness. The end. And thank you all for coming tonight, and to those of you watching at home. And time to end the story right now.